Tails, one head, yang yang. Did a reading on the 24th, but my storage on my phone stopped the video, so this is what it was in case anyone wanted to know. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Two tails, one head, yang yang. This is the trigram Qian Heaven. 3 heads, old yang. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Our bottom trigram again is solid, 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 which is Kuion heaven. Kuion is superhuman cosmic law. Enduring, he determines the nature and development of all things, from the movement of the stars to the cycle of the seasons, to causing each individual seed to grow into its own kind of plant. Heaven is creativity in its pure form, the force that drives change and what endures within it. He confronts us with truth and what it demands, both as the absolute law of nature and as the challenge of individual calling, experienced as an inner law. He is both the awareness of what to do and how to be, and also the power to act on it. Heaven is Father, found in the northwest, the realm between autumn and winter, when the buds set and the seeds fall to earth. Our top or outer trigram for our primary hexagram will be read as solid, solid, broken. This is dewy, lake, or marsh. Dewy is lake and marsh, abundant energy that teems with life. She is the impulse to communicate, share, and exchange, and delights in both inner and outer conversation. She brings things into circulation and gives them voice. This is the sheer enjoyment of participating in life to the full, expressing ourselves and hearing others, and satisfying our desires. Lake is the youngest daughter, spirit of the fertile west and of autumn. Dewy lake or marsh above Kuion heaven give us the hexagram 43. Once our line 4 transforms from an old yang to a young yin, that'll give us a top or outer trigram for our secondary or supporting hexagram of broken, solid, broken, or open, whole, open. This is Kan, water. Kan is deep water, flowing and formless. He is the complement of Li, dark where Li is bright, unconscious to her sharp lucidity, and represents a more fluid, intuitive, and emotional way of perceiving. This is danger, exposure and solitude, and the need to respond with courageous self-reliance when confronted by the haunting unknown. Water is the middle sun, situated in the north, associated with midwinter and midnight. Con water above Qian heaven. Give us the hexagram 5. We will get the definitions or the titles of our hexagrams from I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. Thomas Cleary has translated it. Excuse me. All right. 43, our primary hexagram, parting. Detachment from discriminating consciousness, repelling the energy of external influences. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Hexagram 5, waiting. Waiting for the proper timing in gathering primal energy, gradually restoring the primordial in the midst of the temporal. We will start by reading from Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future, which is a nice introductory I Ching commentary. Hexagram 43, our primary hexagram, Hilary Barrett calls deciding, which was parting in I-ming's Taoist I Ching. Key questions: what do you stand for? How do you define yourself? What belongs in your realm, and where do you need to make a clean break? I forgot to mention, when we approach the I Ching to consult the oracle, the question we bring to it will always have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time. The oracle. Deciding, tell it in the king's chambers. With truth, call out, there is danger. Notify your own city. Fruitless to take up arms, fruitful to have a direction to go. The old Chinese character for deciding shows a hand holding up a token, asserting your identity and right to be heard, even in the king's chambers. This is where decision begins, at the very center of power. That center might be inside your own mind and yet still not feel safe. Declaring the truth loud and clear is dangerous. It stirs up old ghosts, inner and outer. Yet better this than ignoring and neglecting them. As the message of the decision spreads out from the center, it is fruitless to take up arms. This is a time to communicate, not fight. It will serve you better to focus with clear intention on what you're moving towards rather than what you're reacting against. Image. Lake above, heaven, deciding. A noble one distributes riches to reach those below. She dwells in power and virtue and also shuns things. A lake above heaven is a cloud, sharing the blessing of rain and always pure, never in contact with the mud. The noble one's generosity is like this, a pure, inspired expression of her character, without ulterior motive. She gives and also knows what to stay away from. Sequence. Deciding follows from hexagram 42, increasing. Increasing and not reaching an end must mean breakthrough, and so deciding follows. Deciding means breaking through. As more and more is poured in, the limits must surely break. Instead of traveling with the cycle from increase to decrease, you take a positive decision to use and share the blessing. Pair. Deciding forms a pair with hexagram 44, coupling. Coupling means meeting, supple meets firm. Deciding means breaking up, firm breaks up supple. Hexagram 43 is 5 firm, unbroken lines pushing out a single supple open line. They embody an assertion of identity that breaks through indecision. In hexagram 44, the single open line finds its way back. And our supporting hexagram 5, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. It's called waiting. Key questions. How can you wait patiently and with commitment? While you wait, how can you best make yourself ready? Oracle. Waiting with truth and confidence. Shining out, creating success. Constancy brings good fortune. Fruitful to cross the great river. You wait for what you need, like a farmer waiting for the weather to change. This is not a passive state. You can dance for rain, influence events by bringing yourself into harmony with the outcome you need, but you cannot force this. You can only attend to it. You will need patience. It may all take much longer than you had imagined. When you are fully present in waiting, your intense attention shines out like a beacon, beginning a creative engagement with the world, not by working on anything, but by waiting on it and holding your faith. And in crossing the river, committing yourself to go as far as you can towards what you're waiting for, you begin the transition into the world where it is real. Image. The clouds are above heaven, waiting. A noble one eats, drinks, and relaxes with music. In this image. A noble one doesn't hover anxiously in the doorway watching the skies. Instead, with sureness and constancy in his heart and fluidity in his actions, he thrives in the present moment. Feasting when you can't cultivate your fields shows confidence, and it keeps you rested and prepared for the moment when you can act. In ancient China, where the ancestral spirits helped to bring better weather, you would invite them to share your meals, revitalizing your relationship with what provides for you. Sequence. Waiting follows from hexagram 4, not knowing. Young things cannot do without nourishment, and so waiting follows. Waiting means the way of eating and drinking. Naturally, young things don't spring instantly into a state of full growth, and nor does wisdom or knowing. They must be nourished patiently over time. Pair. Waiting forms a pair with hexagram 6, arguing. Waiting means no progress. Arguing means no connection. Lacking what you need, you could challenge the injustice and argue your case, or wait and have faith. Though you're not moving forward, you might be inviting help and connection. Our fourth line was an old yang and transforms to a young yin. So our changing line is going to be, of our primary hexagram, is going to be our most focused part of our reading. Takes precedence over all other elements. Puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. The fourth line has the general context of the capacity for action asking how the work can be done. Our changing line 4 of hexagram 43, deciding. Thighs without flesh, moving awkwardly now. Lead a sheep on a rope, regrets vanish. Hear words not trusted. Taking a decision doesn't immediately make life easier. For you, the great, it meant accepting the responsibility to overcome the great floods and create safe, dry land to feed the people. Moved by a restless desire to accomplish his task, he traveled and labored constantly so that his thighs wasted away. Such long-term decisions become credible when they are made in actions, not words. Rather than talking about it, it's better simply to let your actions speak, like the man who leads out a sheep to show his surrender. Regrets vanish when, instead of fighting the present reality, you go to meet it with acceptance. This truly demonstrates resolve. Next, we will read our hexagrams and changing line from I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It was 43. Parting. Parting is lauded in the royal court. The call of truth involves danger. Addressing one's own domain, it is not beneficial to go right to war, but it is beneficial to go somewhere. Explanation. Parting is separating and leaving. In the body of the hexagram, 1 yin is on top of 5 yangs. Yang is about to become pure, while yin is about to disappear. The qualities of the hexagram are strength and harmony, harmoniously acting with strength, strong but not violent. It equally has the meaning of using yang to get rid of yin, so it is called parting. This hexagram represents repelling yin by yang. It follows on the previous hexagram, reduction. In reduction, one stills rejoicing and does not rejoice arbitrarily, so as to foster yang and repel yin, using inherent sane energy to repel the energy of external influences. The energy of external influences is invited by the discriminatory consciousness, so if you want to repel external influences, nothing is better than to first part with the discriminatory consciousness. After people get mixed up in temporal conditioning, the discriminatory consciousness takes charge of affairs. Wine and sex distract them from reality. The lure of wealth deranges their nature. Emotions and desires well forth at once. Thoughts and ruminations arise in a tangle, and the mind ruler is lost in confusion. Because habituation becomes second nature over a long period of time, it cannot be abruptly removed. It is necessary to work on the matter in a serene and equanimous way, according to the time. Eventually, discrimination will cease and the original spirit will return. The human mind will sublimate and the mind of Tao will complete. Again, you will see the original self. But this discriminating consciousness is loved by the human mind. If you want to part from it, it is best first to clarify the mind. Once the mind is clarified, the mind of Tao appears, and the discriminatory consciousness is easily dismissed. Therefore, parting is lauded in the royal court. The royal court is the abode of the mind ruler, where true and false are distinguished. When the mind clearly understands true and false, then the mind is not deluded by the discriminatory consciousness and easily parts from it. But since the discriminatory consciousness has been in charge of things for so long, its roots are deep and its authority is tremendous. One cannot attack it impetuously, but must find the right way between intensity and laxity before it is possible to settle anything. When the text says the call of truth, it means the true mind and genuine intent as the means to amass sane energy. When it says involves danger, it means caution and wariness is the way to ward off aberrant energy. Addressing one's own domain means refining the self. It is not beneficial to go right to war, means to wait for the proper time. Once one has been able to amass the right kind of energy and ward off the wrong kind of energy, and also has refined oneself, awaiting the proper time to act, myriad objects are all empty, and there is just the discriminating consciousness alone. Take advantage of the right time to detach from this, and there will be unfailing benefit. The qualities of the hexagram are strength and harmony, serene without pressure, awaiting the right time to act. This seems to be the secret of parting from yin. And our supporting hexagram 5, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Hexagram 5 is waiting. In waiting, there is sincerity and great development. It is good to be correct. It is beneficial to cross a great river. Explanation. Waiting means there is a waiting. As to the qualities of the hexagram, above is water, a pitfall, below is heaven, which is sound and strong. Being sound and strong and able to manage in the midst of danger, it is therefore called waiting. This hexagram represents nurturing strength, awaiting the proper time. It follows on the previous hexagram, difficulty. Difficulty is movement and action in danger, restoring the primordial while in the midst of the temporal. Therefore, one travels the path of strength and firmness and takes the true yang fallen in water out, i.e., one takes the primordial out of the conditioned. However, when the yang has been trapped in water for a long time, it is not possible to get out of danger immediately. One must lead it on gradually, waiting for the proper time to gather it. One cannot presume upon one's strength and set about the task impetuously. That would bring on danger. People give rise to yin from the culmination of yang. The yang in the center of heaven runs into the palace of earth, so that earth is filled in and becomes water. The yin in the center of earth enters the palace of heaven, so that heaven is hollowed and becomes fire. This is that process with the trigrams next to them. At this point, working with false yin and false yang, the strong becomes weak and the submissive becomes stubborn. The intent is not sincere and the mind is not right. Being aggressive, one is not aware of danger and is not receptive enough to notice obstacles. One acts dangerously, hoping for the remote chance of luck, knowing no limits. Now, if you want to get out of danger, it is necessary to know danger. Being able to recognize danger is being able to believe it is dangerous. Once you believe in the danger, you have inner control. Being careful and wary, you refine yourself and wait for the proper time. Every act is confined to its proper place, and one is not damaged by external influences. Therefore, in the path of waiting, there is sincerity and great development, gaining good fortune by being correct. Having sincerity and great development means believing in danger and being able to cope with it. That correctness is good means that by maintaining correctness, you can be free from danger. Once you believe in the danger and keep to what is right, you fend off danger by strength and firmness and use danger to nurture strength and firmness. awaiting the time to move forward and enter the lair looking for the tiger. Not only are you able to avoid being injured by negative energy, you can also take the true yang fallen into water and return it to the palace of heaven. This is the reason that it is beneficial to cross a great river. A great river is most dangerous. This is the image of water, which is something that fells and traps yang. That danger is most great. Believing in the danger, you cross it correctly. When the time is not yet ripe, you nurture strength, and when the time comes, you advance strength. Advancing it and nourishing it at the proper times is how you can be in danger yet cope with it, and how you can get out of danger. That strength is beneficial wherever it goes. We will now read our changing line 4 from our primary hexagram 43 rather, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or here are some places you may find yourself, takes precedence over all other elements, and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Hexagram 43, changing line 4. No flesh on the buttocks, not making progress. Leading a sheep, regret disappears. Hearing the words but not believing. Explanation. When strength is not correctly oriented, the mind of Tao is burdened by the human mentality. This is like having no flesh on the buttocks, so being unable to sit at ease, and also not making progress in action, not successfully parting from yin. It is lucky if the mind of Tao has not yet disappeared, and one can therefore lead in positive energy to increase it. Then the regret that was there can vanish. But the problem is that one does not believe words about parting from yin earthliness, still having the human mentality mixed in with the mind of Tao. This is strength being damaged by weakness, not knowing how to part with yin. We will also read the commentary section for our hexagrams 43 and our supporting hexagram 5, which is a little bit more alchemical often. Hexagram 43, parting, lake above, heaven below. Moisture ascends to heaven, which parts with it. Thus do superior people distribute blessings to reach those below, while avoiding presumption of virtue. Parting is a bursting forth. Above is lake, and below is heaven. Moisture ascends to heaven, then changes into rain and waters myriad creatures. It is as though heaven is being unselfish and parts with the moisture to let it flow down. This is the image of parting. What superior people see in this is that just as myriad creatures grow when there is moisture in the sky, so are the people secure and peaceful when those above have benevolence. Therefore, they distribute blessings to reach those below, causing everyone to benefit from their kindness. To distribute to those below is to distribute blessings. If one distributes blessings unself-consciously, then the giving is great. The generosity is real. This is like heaven covering everything and giving life to all creatures. This is what is meant by the saying, those of great virtue do not consider themselves virtuous. They are companions of heaven. If one is conscious of distribution of blessings being virtuous, this is presumption of virtue. There is still selfishness in the heart, and the distribution of blessings will not endure. This is not to be considered virtue. This is what those who distribute blessings are to strictly avoid. Therefore, superior people view others and self as the same. Distributing blessings, they do not expect any reward. They have virtue but do not presume upon it. So their virtue grows day by day, while their minds grow humbler day by day. They part with all self-satisfaction and self-importance. This comes about as inevitably as moisture in the sky falls to the earth. Working on the Tao, accumulating achievement and building up practice, carrying out such and such expedients to benefit others, is like distributing blessings to people. But many who carry out expedients to benefit others do so without genuine sincerity. Some do it for reputation, some do it for profit, some make an ineffective outward show of helping people based on ancient models and then blame others when things don't go quite as they wish. These are all cases of having no virtue yet presuming on virtue, and are not worthy of the name of benefiting others. Observe how heaven bestows blessings on myriad creatures. Does it expect any reward from them? Not expecting any reward from myriad creatures, heaven has virtue but does not presume upon it. If even heaven does not presume upon its virtue, how much less is the virtue of ordinary people to be presumed upon? Whenever one does anything for the benefit of others, if one can emulate heaven in not presuming upon virtue, one's virtue will not fail to be great. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Hexagram 5, waiting. Water above, heaven below. Clouds rise to heaven, waiting. The superior person makes merry with food and drink. Waiting means there is something awaited. Above is water, below is heaven. Water vapor rises from earth to sky where it condenses into clouds. When clouds form in the sky, rain may be expected. This is the image of waiting. What superior people see in this is that when people are unable to attain the universal Tao, it is because they are temperamental and unbalanced in action, because the earthly and the celestial are not in harmony. Therefore, superior people eat and drink to nourish the earthly, causing the earthly to balance the celestial. They make merry to attune the celestial, causing the celestial to join the earthly. When the earthly and the celestial are in mutual harmony, living energy is stored within, producing being from within non-being, spontaneously without forced effort. This happens because the sweet rain of life falls naturally through the coalescing of the energies of heaven and earth. The sprouts of living potential grow when the energies of yin and yang commune. Here, food and drink refers to nurturing the body so that the body is sound. Making merry refers to nurturing the mind so that the mind is unburdened. When body and mind are nurtured, the restorative elixir is easy to crystallize. Herein lies what is known as refining the self and awaiting the proper time. We will now turn to James Dekorne's Gnostic Book of Changes, which I've left links to in the description box below. He is a practitioner of the Tao himself, and he quotes things like the Kabbalah, and also has helpful editor's notes throughout. He synthesizes several I Ching commentaries in here, so we'll be reading the names of the translators and then moving on to their little sections. So he calls Hexagram 43 resoluteness. Other titles might be breakthrough, the symbol of decision, resolution, determination, parting, removing corruption, eradication, judgment, leg, Recognizing the risks involved in criminal prosecution, justice demands a resolute proof of the culprit's guilt in the royal court. One informs one's own city that armed force is not necessary. In this way, progress is assured. Blowfold, resolution. When a proclamation is made at the court of the king, frankness in revealing the true state of affairs is dangerous. In vital matters, frankness may prove dangerous. In making announcements to the people of his own city, it is not fitting for the ruler to carry arms. It is better to repose trust in our own people. It is favorable to have some goal or destination. Lu, determination. Someone is proud in the king's court, and the king trusts him. If one exposes the truth, danger. It must be told to one's own people. Using force does not benefit. It does benefit to do something else. You must decide how to deal with a situation before it reaches a dangerous point, or things will take their own course and overwhelm you. Ritsuma/Karcher, parting. Displaying, tending towards kingly chambers, conforming, crying out, possessing adversity. Notifying originates from the capital, not harvesting, approaching arms, harvesting, possessing, directed, going. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of separation and diverging directions. It emphasizes that resolutely dividing your energies is the adequate way to handle it. Cleary, 1. The royal court is the abode of the mind ruler, where true and false are distinguished. Parting is lauded in the royal court. The call of truth involves danger. Addressing one's own domain, it is not beneficial to go right to war, but it is beneficial to go somewhere. Wu, eradication indicates a conceited pronouncement in the royal court on the one hand, and a concerted call for vigilance on the other. It is essential to make the danger known to the people, but not to resort to force now. It is advantageous to have undertakings. The image, leg. The image of the waters of a marsh mounting over heaven forms resoluteness. The superior man, in accordance with this, does not hoard his wealth, but shares it with his subordinates. Wilhelm/Baines. The lake has risen up to heaven, the image of breakthrough. Thus the superior man dispenses riches downward and refrains from resting on his virtue. Blowfold. This hexagram symbolizes a marshy lake being drawn or sucked towards the sky. The superior man distributes his emoluments to those below. Dwelling in virtue, he renounces them. Lu. The lake ascends to heaven, symbolizing determination. The superior man distributes wealth below him without displaying his favors. Ritsuma/Karcher. Above marsh with respect to heaven, parting. A chuntsu, or chief son, or superior person, uses spreading out benefits to extend to the below. A chuntsu uses residing and actualizing Tao, by consequence keeping aloof. To actualize Tao is the ability to follow the course traced by the ongoing process of the cosmos, linked with acquire, D, acquiring that which makes a being what it is meant to be. Cleary 1, we already read. Yeah, we read that in I-ming's Taoist teaching. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. Resoluteness is the symbol of displacing or removing. We see the dynamic lines displacing the magnetic line. The figure displays the attributes of strength and cheerfulness. There is displacement, but harmony continues. The exhibition of the criminal's guilt in the royal court is shown by the magnetic line mounted on 5 dynamic lines. The awareness of danger and appeal for justice makes the matter clear. If he has recourse to arms, what he prefers will soon be exhausted. When the advance of the dynamic lines is complete, there will be an end to displacement. Leg. Resoluteness represents the 3rd month when the last vestige of winter, represented by the 6th line, is about to disappear before the advance of summer. The single yin line at the top symbolizes an inferior man, a feudal prince or high minister who is corrupting the government. The 5 yang lines below are the representatives of good order. The lesson of the hexagram is how to remove corruption from the kingdom. He who would do this must do so by the force of his character more than the force of arms, never forgetting the dangerous nature of his undertaking. He must openly denounce the criminal in the court and awaken general sympathy to his cause. Among his own adherents in his own city, he must prevent any tendency to resort to armed conflict. As a worthy statesman, he is not motivated by private feelings. Hu Ping Wen says, "If but a single inferior man is left, he is sufficient to make the superior man anxious. If but a single inordinate desire be left in the mind, that is sufficient to disturb the harmony of the heavenly principles. The eradication in both cases must be complete before the labor is ended." Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Resoluteness involves astute discernment of what is wrong and a discreet reestablishment of order without polarizing the situation. Be clear in your own strategy, but let common sense be your guide about how much you need to disclose to others. Avoid aggression at all costs. The superior man maintains equilibrium by distributing his energy equitably. He smooths things out. The 43rd hexagram is an image of the eradication of an inferior force from the situation at hand. 5 yang lines resolutely advance on the single yin line, which is about to be pushed out of the hexagram at the top. This is a negative image of the 23rd hexagram, disintegration, which shows the opposite situation of 5 lower yin lines undermining 1 upper yang line. It is instructive to compare the nearly identical messages for the superior man in the images of each of these figures. The idea is one of fostering an equitable distribution of energy within the situation. Disintegration and resoluteness Disintegration and the resoluteness required to rectify it are extreme situations requiring extreme measures. Such extremes must always be neutralized through a justly distributed balance of forces. A quote from Plato in the Republic. It's not the concern of law that any one class in the city fare exceptionally well, but it contrives to bring this about for the whole city, harmonizing the citizens by persuasion and compulsion, making them share with one another the benefit that each class is able to bring to the commonwealth. And it produces such men in the city, not in order to let them turn whichever way each wants, but in order that it may use them in binding the city together. Compare the nuances of meaning in each translation of the judgment. Wilhelm's is most radical, advising a direct, albeit dangerous, expose of what is wrong. Most of the others imply room for discretion about what needs to be revealed. Diplomacy is the art of knowing when full disclosure only prevents resolution of the problem. Ritzema/Karcher allude to the proper mindset required to manage such situations. A Chun Tzu uses residing and actualizing Tao, by consequence keeping aloof. To reside in actualizing Tao is to live directly from one's essence. And when this is associated with keeping aloof, we get an image of quietly rectifying a situation without revealing our purpose or strategy. Psychologically interpreted, resoluteness, like disintegration, depicts an extreme situation which must first be rectified, then prevented from reoccurring through the maintenance of a just balance of power, which is administered by the ego under the will of the self. Our supporting hexagram 5 puts our primary hexagram 43 in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. James Dekorne also calls it waiting. Other titles might be nourishment, calculated inaction, attending, biding one's time, nourishment through inaction, waiting for nourishment, moistened, and a quote from D.F. Hook, waiting with the assurance that a blessing will come. Judgment. Leg. Waiting intimates that with sincerity and firmness there will be brilliant success and good fortune. It will be advantageous to cross the great stream. Wilhelm/Baines. Waiting. If you are sincere, you have light and success. Perseverance brings good fortune. It furthers one to cross the great water, blowfold, calculated in action, or exhibiting the power to wait, and the confidence of others win brilliant success. Righteous persistence brings good fortune. It will be advantageous to cross the great river or sea. The significance of this hexagram is that inaction while awaiting the outcome of events will enable us to avoid a danger now threatening. Firmness, clarity of mind, and success in winning the confidence of others are now demanded of us. With them, our undertakings will prosper. Moreover, this period of inaction is a good time in which to go on a journey or else for relaxation and enjoyment. Lu, waiting. If you are sincere, you will have glory, light, and success. Continuing leads to good fortune. It is of benefit to cross the great water, to travel to remote places. Ritsuma/Karcher, attending, possessing conformity, shining, growing, trial, significant, harvesting, wading the great river. Editor, possessing conformity is translated as inner and outer are in accord. Confidence of the spirits has been captured. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of being compelled to wait for and serve something. It emphasizes that fixing your attention on what is required while waiting carefully for the right moment to act is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time you are told to attend. The image, leg. The image of clouds ascending over the sky forms waiting. The superior man, in accordance with this, eats and drinks, feasts and enjoys himself as if there were nothing else to employ him. Lu. Clouds rise up in the sky. This symbolizes waiting. The superior man enjoys his food and drink. He remains relaxed and happy. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. Waiting shows peril in front, but its subject does not allow himself to be involved in the dangerous defile. The success in sincerity and good fortune and firmness are shown by the position of the fifth line, which is correctly situated in the central place assigned by heaven. Crossing the great stream will be followed by meritorious achievement. Leg. Waiting is composed of the lower trigram of strength and the upper trigram of peril. Strength confronted by peril might be expected to advance boldly and deal with it at once, but the lesson of the hexagram is that it is wiser to wait until success is sure. In the situation at hand, firm correctness is all that is required for eventual victory. Crossing the great stream is a frequent expression in the I Ching, which symbolizes the undertaking of hazardous enterprises, or encountering great difficulties. Historically, it refers to the Yellow River, which the lords of Chao had to cross in their revolution against the Yin dynasty tyrants. The crossing made by King Wu in 1122 BC was one of the greatest deeds in the history of China, and was preceded by a long period of waiting until success could be assured. Regarding the image, it is said that the cloud that has risen to the top of the sky has nothing to do but wait until the harmony of heaven and earth require it to discharge its store of rain. The superior man is likewise counseled to enjoy his idle time while waiting for the correct moment to deal with the approaching danger. Notes and paraphrases, judgment. Strength in the face of danger here consists of the will to sit tight and do nothing. The superior man carries on as if nothing was the matter and nourishes himself through inaction. There are many kinds of courage. Perhaps the greatest of all is the courage to remain unflinchingly in place when all the circumstances seem to cry out for action. It takes far more courage to wait for the dragon to slowly come to you than to rush forth and attack him in his lair. As a strategy, to outweight your opponent through pure willpower and inner strength can be more effective than a direct attack, but it can only succeed when you are truly strong. It is as if the real battle takes place on the inner planes, and the first one to act in the world thereby concedes defeat. A very large part of the work consists in disciplining oneself to wait, to take no action until some indefinite time in the future. This is exceedingly difficult to do and creates incredible stresses within the psyche, which is exactly why it is necessary. Psychologically, to cross the great stream is to subdue all the autonomous instincts, drives, and emotions that are accustomed to responding whenever they are stimulated. As long as waiting creates feelings of stress, you can be sure that the battle has not been won. When you can wait like the superior man, as if there were nothing else to do, then you can allow yourself to hope that you may be getting somewhere. To nourish oneself through inaction is to digest and absorb the energy of one's instinctive responses. As in any nourishing assimilation, their strength then becomes your strength. The true adept is one who has digested all of his passion and is thereby empowered to use it for his own purposes. Instead of engaging in civil war, he has united his forces to act in the world. A quote from Zebius Halevi in Kabbalah and Exodus. Tradition says that Moses did not set the tabernacle up straight away, but delayed for 3 months, despite the fact that the people wanted to dedicate it at once. In this is repeated a lesson of patience concerning matters of the spirit. For instead of accepting their teacher's word, which conveyed the will of God, the Israelites sought to impose their own will over what they had made. This phenomenon is not unknown among those who cannot wait, which is a vital part of esoteric training. Unfortunately, it has to be demonstrated over and over again that the timing of a spiritual event is contingent upon a cosmic schedule and not the will of the individual. We will next go to our changing line 4 in our primary hexagram 43 to read that changing line. It puts a pin on the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. Takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Changing line 4, hexagram 43, resoluteness is what James Dekorne calls that. Leg. The fourth line dynamic shows one from whose buttocks the skin has been stripped and who walks slowly and with difficulty. If he could act like a sheep led after its companions, occasion for repentance would disappear. But though he hear these words, he will not believe them. Wilhelm/Baines, there is no skin on his thighs, and walking comes hard. If a man were to let himself be led like a sheep, remorse would disappear. But if these words are heard, they will not be believed. Blofeld, his haunches have been flayed, and he walks falteringly. Though he could put an end to his shame by allowing himself to be dragged along like a sheep. Moreover, he puts no faith in the words of others. Having recently suffered, we advance with hesitation and are unwilling to accept useful but rather humiliating assistance. Lou, he injures his thighs, he walks with difficulty. If he were to follow like a sheep, remorse would vanish. People will not believe his words when they hear them. Wu, his buttocks have no skin. He hobbles along. If he would lead away the sheep, there will be no regret. But he does not trust what he hears. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. He is not in the place appropriate to him. He hears, but does not understand. Wilhelm/Baines, there is no clear comprehension. Blofeld, having no faith in the words of others shows lack of intelligence. Ritzema/Karcher, understanding not brightened indeed. Cleary 2, being out of place, not hearing clearly. Wu, his position is improper, he does not understand it. Leg, line 4 is not in the center, nor in a place appropriate for a dynamic line. He therefore will not be at rest, nor do anything to accomplish the work of the hexagram. He is symbolized as a culprit who has been whipped. Alone, he can do nothing. If he could follow others, like a sheep led along, he might accomplish something, but he will not listen to advice. Notes and paraphrases. Sue, the man is restless and wishes to enforce his will by stubbornly pushing forward, but he meets with insuperable antagonisms. Advice to desist and to follow others is ignored. Let me let this cat read this a moment. out here with the riffraff street cats. All right. Wing, as you continue to push forward, you meet with one obstacle after the next. Your resoluteness has reached a degree where you cannot stop yourself. If you would submit to the difficult times and allow others to lead, your problems would resolve themselves. Such advice is meaningless, however, since you cannot be led. Editor. The image here is clearly one of willful stubbornness. The harsh indictment is mitigated somewhat by Legg's Confucian commentary. He hears but does not understand. With all of the goodwill in the world, it is still possible to receive this line, and the commentary takes some of the sting out of it by saying that you simply haven't gotten the message yet. The self is a terrible archetype, far more like the wrathful Yahweh than the forgiving Christ, and there are phases of the work in which no matter what you do, it seems to be wrong. One must learn to live with this fact. A quote from A. Rothberg in The Sword of the Golem. The Lord leads the willing, he drags the unwilling in his wake. James Dekorne breaks changing line 4 down into 2 possible succinct definitions, A and B. A, you create hardship for yourself through your own stubbornness. And B, you haven't gotten the message yet. You don't understand, yet insist on pushing ahead anyway. We will now get a randomly card-drawn chapter from the Tao Te Ching to read, and I will try and summarize this. Hexagram 43. Waiting or parting, or some of the other titles that James Dekorne had. Which were interesting. Breakthrough, the symbol of decision, resolution, determination, parting, removing corruption, eradication. Shows all firm lines except for one broken line at the top. And this was the image of dewy Laker March above heaven, and heaven supports the trigram that goes above it. It's kind of like both of the hexagrams. The other was Con, water above heaven, were water above heaven. So the idea of almost like moisture or a cloud rising up to the sky. And in waiting, there was the idea also that the 5 strong yang lines were trying to push out a weak yin line from the top. Basically had to do, even in terms of government, it talked about even having one person in government that is not helping the whole will cause anxiety for the noble person. And so the goal is to continually move corruption out. Also in waiting, it had the idea of moisture and the sky granting moisture to the earth, and heaven giving of its wellspring of nourishment without presuming on its, what was the word? Its virtue. And so if that is what heaven is to do, or heaven does, then how much more are people to not presume upon their virtue when they bestow goods, services, benevolence to those in their care. Hexagram 5, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context, a direction of travel, an underlying influence that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. That's actually called weighting. And the first one was called parting. But with weighting, that had to do with the idea of a dangerous situation. Danger, con, also could be described as danger. The hexagram or the trigram above Kuan heaven in our supporting hexagram 5. And that looks like this. Nourishment, calculated inaction, biding one's time, nourishment through inaction. So basically, the noble one shows confidence and with heaven. When waiting, they eat and drink and make merry and wait for the proper time to act. So in that, there is the idea of calculated inaction. I like that term, that waiting and making the most of our time so that when it is time to act, we will act with enough energy to do so. So pretty much if there's some reason to be sitting and waiting, whether it be that you're sick, as several of us are, that we are to just take care of ourselves essentially, so that if there's a time that requires us to take action, that we will be rested up for that. Our changing line 4 in our primary hexagram 43 parting shows someone with their thighs that have the skin peeled off of them and they're having a hard time walking, and yet they're pushing on through and basically won't listen to anyone. Basically kind of like very like an idea of someone that's arrogant, and it would be shameful of them in their minds to take any advice at this point. Basically, it calls that behavior as kind of like stupid, essentially, or maybe you could call it rash, but it would be helpful for them to be able to be led along like a sheep even, and then there would be benefit from their actions and they might get somewhere. But the idea is that they are not getting the point and not being led. They won't listen to reason or to anyone, probably out of, it sounds like, arrogance or a feeling of having to swallow a bitter pill, something like that. However, in the commentary of Lu I-ming's I Ching commentary section, it was talking about, not in the changing line, but just in line or hexagram 43. He said something really great that I wanted to quote, but yeah, I like this. This is having to do with distributing blessings. If one is conscious of distribution of blessings being virtuous, this is presumption of virtue. There is still selfishness in the heart, and the distribution of blessings will not endure. This is not to be considered virtue. This is what those who distribute blessings are to strictly avoid. Therefore, superior people view others and self as the same. Distributing blessings, they do not expect any reward. They have virtue, but do not presume upon it, so their virtue grows day by day, while their minds grow humbler day by day. They part with all self-satisfaction and self-importance. This comes about as inevitably as moisture in the sky falls to the earth. Working on the Tao, accumulating achievement and building up practice, Carrying out such and such expedients to benefit others is like distributing blessings to people. But many who carry out expedients to benefit others do so without genuine sincerity. Some do it for reputation, some do it for profit. Some make an effective outward show of helping people based on ancient models and then blame others when things don't go quite as they wish. These are all cases of having no virtue yet presuming on virtue, and are not worthy of the name of benefiting others. Observe how heaven bestows blessings on myriad creatures. Does it expect any reward from them? Anyway, so on. So basically, it would be wise at this stage to take the advice of the opposite of the most focused part of the reading of Changing Line 4, which would be to be led and wait for the proper time to act, but to not continue on doggedly and so intent on your own will and your idea of the direction of things that you can't see yourself objectively in this situation or anyone else objectively. That it would be good to be able to get a better view of it, of the situation, than the ground level view that you currently might possess. So after that, let's get a chapter out of the Tao Te Ching. Got a few of these. Let's pare this down. It's kind of a weird way to do things. Let's take that one. 81. And my copy is from Jia Fufang and Jane English, their translation. Chapter 81 of the Tao Te Ching. Truthful words are not beautiful. Beautiful words are not truthful. Good men do not argue. Those who argue are not good. Those who know are not learned. The learned do not know. The sage never tries to store things up. The more he does for others, the more he has. The more he gives to others, the greater his abundance. The Tao of heaven is pointed, but does not harm. The Tao of the sage is work without effort. Flag hitting around. Can't do that. Inauspicious, right? Pardon